Good day everyone, I am Ashley Joy F. Olarte and I will be the first reporter for this group. So our topic is all about the teacher as an organizational leader. But before that, let us define what is leadership. So leadership, it is the ability to motivate and guide members of a group, organization, society, and team. Also, leadership is a process of influence that takes place in groups and involves common goals. So, in simple words, leadership is motivating and guiding your members. So, ang ibig sabihin lang po nito ay ito yung kakayahan ng isang tao na leader na pamunuan at i-guide ang kanyang nasasakupan. Isang halimbawa po nito is yung sa aming grupo dito sa report na to, which is ang aming leader ay si Ana. So, pinamunuan niya po kami or pinamunuan niya po yung grupo namin sa pamamagitan ng hinati-hati niya po yung mga topics. Tsaka niya ini-assign sa aming dalawa ni Monica kung ano yung mga parts na dapat naming i-discuss sa inyo. And through this process, magiging maayos po yung flow ng report namin and para hindi po magulo. And sa grupo po namin, meron po kaming common goal, which is yung mai-present po namin ng maayos sa inyo at malinaw ang report po namin and makapagbigay po kami ng new information sa inyong lahat. So, let's now proceed to the nature of administrative work. So, dito naman po sa part na to ay malalaman natin kung ano-ano ang mga ginagawa ng mga school leader or ano-ano yung kanilang mga responsibilities bilang leader ng paaralan. But before that, what is administrative work? So, the scope of administrative work can be very wide with numerous rules and responsibilities. Maintenance of an office environment and its staff is typically the primary responsibilities of administrative work. So one of the example of administrative work is the school administrator. So ano nga ba ang school administrator? School administrator is a professional who is accountable for properly managing both people and physical resources with the goal of achieving school's objectives. At academic institutions, school administrators hold positions of leadership. A school administrator could be a principal, vice principal, dean, and the head of the department. So they are the leaders who are professionals in properly managing both human and physical resources of a school. What does school administrator do? A school administrator's job responsibilities may include supervision of teachers and school staff. Furthermore, you may observe them creating rules and policies to keep students disciplined. However, these educators have a lot more work to do. The first one is developing class schedules. In order in order for administrators to manage the class efficiently, creating a schedule is essential. The academic flow is maintained by a carefully designed class schedules. Teachers and students can use it to prioritize how things get done in their classrooms as well. The second one is ensuring the curriculum standards are met. It is critical to ensure that the class follows the established schedule. However, it is also critical to understand that when the classroom schedule is followed, curriculum standards are met. The curriculum establishes clear and measurable objectives for students and teachers. It assists them in understanding what to expect at the end of the course. The third one is developing the scope for the professional development of teachers. School administrators create opportunities for teachers' professional development, which helps them become more organized and improve their classroom management skills. Career development broadens teachers' perspectives and positions them as experts in their fields. As a result, students can approach teachers without fear and they can be confident that their concerns will be addressed. Fourth, we have the monitoring student success. Every educational organization must assess students' progress, Various parameters such as grades and assessment reports assist teachers and administrators in tracking how well students understand the concepts taught in the classroom. One of the responsibilities of school administrators is to monitor students' progress and to help teachers understand what they can do to help their students perform better. Fifth is the taking care of school finances. Every school runs on a budget that is established at the start of the school year. Every department is given a set amount of money to spend on operational expenses. School administrators oversee the annual budget and allocate adequate funds to each department to ensure the smooth operation of the school. Six is the coordinating school security. In order to support learning and development, school administrators maintain a secure environment within the school. Students can explore all of the social and creative learning opportunities in a safe school environment, which offers a comfortable learning environment. 7. Communicating with parents about their child's performance. Due to their hectic schedules, parents may be unaware of their children's learning environment. As a result, they may be unaware of their child's progress. School administrators assist parents in bridging this gap by providing them with information in real time. They communicate with parents and assist them in understanding their children's academic progress. And the last one is hiring new members or faculty. Every academic institution must keep a healthy faculty to student ratio. Hiring qualified professionals is an essential component of any educational institution's success. New faculty members bring fresh perspectives or approaches to the table, which may have an impact on students' curves. Let's now proceed to trait approach to leadership. So one of the earliest theories of leadership was the trait approach. When we say trait approach to leadership, ito yung paniniwala ni Aristotle na pagkapanganak pa lamang ng isang tao ay meron na itong taglay ng mga katangian ng pagiging isang leader. Dito po papasok yung tinatawag na nature and nurture. When we say nature, ito yung likas na taglay na natin. Halimbawa ay yung physical na katangian ng tao. Kumbaga ay inborn na. While ang nurture naman ay yung nature na or yung taglay na mayroon ng isang individual ay nahuhubog sa pamamagitan ng pakikisalamuhan niya sa kapwa niya. So, sa tingin nyo, saan papasok si trait to approach leadership? Sa nature ba or sa nurture?
So, good morning everyone. I am Analea Elumboy and punta po tayo sa una kong topic which is early trait research. So, early trait research is a pure trait approaches that studies the personalities that are related to leadership effectiveness. So, dito po, mababanggit dito yung mga personalities na dapat taglayin na isang leader para yung leadership niya is maging effective. Yung leadership niya sa loob ng isang organization or sa isang school community ay maging effective. Also, this talks about the traits and personalities that makes a person a leader and not a follower. So, meron po tayong personal factors that are associated with effective leadership. And si Ralph M. Stockdale, he classified 5 general personal traits which are capacity, achievement, responsibility, participation, and status na makakaapekto sa leadership ng isang tao. So, punta po tayo sa capacity. So, sa capacity dito, masasabi natin na dapat may kapasidad yung isang tao na maging isang leader. Kasi ang pagiging leader ay hindi naman madali. And dapat sa tao, alam niya sa sarili niya na kaya niyang maging leader and may kapasidad siya. So, under capacity is intelligence, alertness, verbal facility, originality, and judgment. Next naman po is achievement. So, maging honest na tayo. Ang pagiging leader dapat may achievement ka sa buhay, or simplest, or siguro may alam sa background ng leadership. So, sa achievement, pwede pumasok dito yung mga scholarship, knowledge, and athletic accomplishments. Pwede din dito yung educational attainment ng isang tao. And third is responsibility. So, dito, kailangan responsable bang tao yung magiging leader nyo? Kasi, kapag naging leader ka, nasa iyo lahat, decision making, pagbibigay ng mga trabaho sa bawat employee mo. So, dapat responsibilidad mo na maging maayos yung pamamahala mo sa isang organization or sa isang school community. So, under responsibility naman po is dependability, initiative, persistence, aggressiveness, self-confidence, and desire to excel. Fourth is participation. So, dito, hindi ka lang basta leader. Kailangan mo rin makipag-participate sa meetings or sa gatherings, or even sa simpleng decision making kasama yung mga employees mo or yung grupo mo. So, under participation is activity, sociability, cooperation, adaptability, and humor. And lastly po is status. So, sa status, naka-under dito yung socio-economic position and popularity. So, let's be honest again, kapag popular ka, mas may chance na ikaw yung maging leader. So, next topic naman po is perspective on leadership traits and skills. So, perspective on leadership traits and skills is the second approach of leadership, and it focuses on the relationship between leader traits and leader effectiveness rather on the comparison of leaders and non-leaders. So, sa perspective on leadership traits skills, dito pag-uusapan naman natin yung relationship ng leader traits and nung leader effectiveness. Kung sa early traits, pinag-usapan natin doon yung mga traits na tinataglay ng isang tao at nadidistinguish na sila ay leaders and hindi followers. Dito naman, mas magpo-focus tayo sa relationship between leader traits and kung paano ito nakaka-apekto sa kanilang leader effectiveness. Also, this approach gives emphasis on the difference of becoming leader and being effective and efficient leader. So, under this approach, meron tayong traits and skills that are associated with effective leadership, and nakaklasify siya sa 3 groups. So, unang group ay ang sa personality. So, under personality is self-confidence, stress tolerance, emotional maturity, integrity, and extroversion. So, punta muna tayo sa self-confidence. So, as a self-confident leader, may chance na mas magsiset ka ng mas mataas na standard para sa iyo at para sa mga employees mo. And mas may chance din na mag-set ka ng mas matataas na goals kasi nga confident ka na kaya nyong ma-achieve yon ng team mo. And dito sa self-confident, kahit pa mahirap yan or madali, sa tingin mo, kayang-kaya mo kasi confident ka. So, dito naman sa stress tolerant, as a leader, kayang-kaya mong i-handle yung mga stress na dumarating sa or na humahadlang sa decision making ng grupo nyo. So, dito, iisipin mo kahit na ipit na kayo sa situations or hirap na kayo sa mga problems na nag-a-arise within your organization, iisipin mo na, kailangan ko munang kumalma, kailangan kalma lang ako para yung mga kagrupo ko, makikita nila sa akin na kalma lang and makakagawa kami ng isang magandang desisyon na makakatulong para ma-solusyonan namin yung problema sa loob ng organization. Next naman is, third naman is emotional maturity. So, as an emotionally mature leaders, kilala mo yung sarili mo. alam mo yung kahinaan at strengths mo, and meron pa sa isip mo na kailangan ko pa ng self-improvement kasi nakukulangan pa ako dito sa part na to or sa skills na to. And alam mo sa sarili mo na may shortcomings ka din, and hindi mo iniisip yung success mo. Ang iniisip mo is yung success ng isang grupo or ng grupo mo para maabot nyo yung goal ng organization nyo. Next naman is integrity. So, fourth naman is integrity. Siyempre, as a leader, dapat meron kang integrity. Dapat may integridad ka na dapat consistent ka sa mga sinasabi mo. For example, kailangan maging honest ka, responsable, and trustworthy ka. Kasi kung wala kang integrity as a leader, babagsak yung grupo nyo sa organization. Hindi nyo magagawa ng maayos yung goals na gusto nyong abutin. And fifth or the last in personality trait is the extroversion. Siyempre, as a leader, hindi naman pwedeng introvert ka. Kailangan maging extrovert ka. Kailangan sociable ka. Kailangan komportable kang nakikisalamuha sa isang grupo or nakikisalamuha sa grupo mo para na rin mas ma-express mo yung sarili mo and masabi mo kung ano yung dapat na gawin or dapat taglayin nung organization or nung grupo mo. So, second group naman is motivation or the motivational traits. These are the task and interpersonal needs, achievement orientation, power needs, expectations, and self-efficacy. So, sa task and interpersonal needs, dito papasok yung passion and drive mo para maabot yung task or yung goal ng organization. Siyempre, as a leader din naman, hindi lang dapat sa sarili mo yung concern mo, pero dapat yung mga nakapalibot din sa'yo, and especially yung mga employees mo. Dapat concern ka din sa kanila. So, next naman is achievement orientation. So, dito na papasok yung kailangan kong i-achieve or kailangan kong mag-excel as a leader para mas maayos kong maipasa or mas maayos kong masabi sa mga employees ko kung ano yung dapat nilang gawin para mag-succeed kami and maabot namin yung objectives or yung goal ng organization namin. And dito na rin papasok yung willingness ng isang leader sa responsibility and yung concern nga dun sa objectives ng organization nila. So, third naman is power or power needs. So, dito na yung motive mo as a leader na kailangan ako yung manguna and kailangan ma-influensyahan ko yung mga employees ko na ganito dapat yung gagawin namin na makakatulong or na mag-uudyok na maabot namin yung goal ng organization. So, next or fourth is expectations. So, as a leader or as a school administrator, kailangan may high expectations tayo kasi lahat naman tayo may high expectations sa isang organization or sa isang komunidad. Hindi naman pababa yung expectation natin. Kaya, as a school administration, kailangan mag-set na tayo ng high expectations para alam din natin kung paano natin maaabot yon or kung paano tayo mag-a-adjust along the way kung may problems man na mag-arise. So, last skill under the motivational trait is self-efficacy. So, dito na papasok yung paniniwala ng leader sa sarili niya. Kasi kung wala siyang paniniwala sa sarili niya, paano pa pag nagkaroon na siya ng grupo or paano pa niya maililipat yung motivation na yun sa grupo niya. So, dito na papasok yung kung paano niya ma-execute yung behavior na yun para makapag-produce siya or para maabot niya yung goals niya para naman sa sarili niya. And sa self-efficacy, makaka-apekto rin ito sa performance niya as a leader and kung paano siya magiging transformational leader. So, last group sa traits and skills associated with effective leadership is yung skills. Under ng skills is technical, interpersonal, and conceptual. So, sa technical skills, dito na papasok yung specialized knowledge or specialized skills ng isang leader or ng isang school administrative na magagamit niya or na madadala niya sa organizations niya na makakatulong para mas mapagaan yung trabaho nila sa loob ng organization. Second naman is yung interpersonal skills. So, dito papasok yung understanding ng feelings ng ibang tao and kung paano ito makaka-apekto sa pakikitungo natin or sa pag-build natin ng healthy relationship inside the organization. Siyempre, hindi naman pwedeng galit-galit tayo sa isang organizations, diba? Ganun din sa isang school community. Kailangan yung mga teachers or other school staffs or yung sa principal dapat nagbi-build sila or magkakasundo-sundo sila para rin maabot nila yung pinaka-vision or goals ng isang school. And lastly, yung sa conceptual or mas kilala bilang cognitive skills. So, ito papasok to sa pag-solve ng mahirap or complex na problem sa loob ng isang organization. Dapat ang isang leader, kaya niyang maging flexible or kaya niyang mag-think outside the box para rin ma-solve agad or hindi na kumalat pa yung conflict or yung problem sa loob ng organization. Dapat as a leader, kailangan maging logical thinker ka and kaya mo rin mag-reason out or kaya mong pangunahan yung organization mo sa pag-solve ng mga problems inside dun sa organization. Hindi pwedeng nakatambay-tambay ka lang as a leader. Kailangan mo din tumulong or kailangan sa'yo mismo magsimula yung mga ways para mas mapabilis yung pag-solve natin sa mga problems inside the organization. So, kung alam mo sa sarili mo na someday gusto mo maging isang school administrator, school principal, or any types of leadership, kailangan alam mo muna sa sarili mo yung strength and weaknesses mo para mas madali sa yung mag-adjust kapag nagtrabaho ka na within the organization. Kasi sa loob ng organization, iba-iba kayo ng personality, iba-iba kayo ng skills. So, kung alam mo yung sa sarili mo, mas madali ka nang makakapag-adjust para sa iba. And dapat open ka para matuto ng bagong skills pa kasi hindi naman pagdating sa sarili natin, hindi naman natin alam lahat. So, may mga bagay na may mga bagay na kailangan din nating matutunan or may mga bagong kaalaman tayo matututunan once na pumasok tayo sa organization. So, third approach is the situations and leadership. So, dito naman is situation and leadership is an approach that works on the assumption that the most effective style of leadership changes from situation to situation. Leaders exert influence through the situations and the situation supports and limits leaders' influence. So, dito naman sa situations and leadership, mas pinopoint out dito na every situation, dun lalabas yung iba't ibang effectiveness nung pagiging leader mo. Kasi, kunyari, for example, hindi naman sa isang scenario or sa isang situation, yung pamumuno mo doon is madadala mo na naman sa panibagong situation. Hindi naman ganun eh. Kaya dito pinopoint out na yung pagiging leader natin or yung pagiging effective ng leadership style mo, nagbabago siya sa pagbabago din ng mga situation na nag-aaray sa isang organization. So, there are some theories that supports the situational leadership approach. So, these are Hersey and Blanchard's situational leadership, Goldman's model of situational leadership, and normative decision theory. So, punta muna tayo sa Hersey and Blanchard's situational leadership. So, dito sa theory na to, sinasuggest na dapat mag-match yung leadership style ng leader and yung preparedness level ng mga employee niya. So, may iba't iba tayong level ng employees preparedness. So, dito makikita natin M1, M2, M3, and M4. Sa M1, or level M1, ang mga employees dito ay merong low competence and low commitment sa organization. So, dito ang namabagay naman na leadership approach is yung telling. So, sa telling, ang ginagawa dito ng leader is directive and authoritative approach. Dito papasok yung si leader lang yung nagde-decision and ang gagawin niya is sasabihin niya kung ano yung dapat gawin ng mga employees niya. Sa leader lahat manggagaling nung mga gagawin ng leader niya. Si leader lang yung magde-decide and hindi dito sinasama yung opinions ng mga employees. So, next level naman tayo is sa M2. So, yung mga employees dito, may low competence na sila pero high na yung commitment nila sa organization. So, dito ang leadership approach is yung selling. So, sa selling, si leader pa rin yung decision maker. Si leader pa rin yung sa kanya pa rin manggagaling lahat ng gagawin ng mga employees niya. Pero dito sa level M2, ang maganda naman dito is nakikipag-communicate na si leader sa mga employees niya. Dito nakikipag-communicate na siya kung ano yung mga gagawin, ano yung dapat nilang gawin, and pinapursue na niya yung mga employees niya rather than simple lang na sinasabi niya or inuutos niya yung mga dapat gawin. Next naman na level is M3. So, under M3 naman, employees have high competence pero low na yung commitment and confidence nila. So, high competent employee na sila ng organization pero biglang bumaba yung commitment and yung samahan na rin natin ng confidence. Kaya ang ginagawa dito ng leadership ang ginagawa ng leader dito na approach is participating na. So, sa participating naman, the leader works with team members to make decisions together. He supports and encourages them and is more democratic. So, sa participating, hindi na lang si leader ang gumagawa ng decision. Kinukuha na din niya or nakikipag-communicate na siya sa employees niya na kung ano yung mas maayos na decision na gagawin nila or kung ano yung mas maayos na gawin para sa organization. And then sa level 4 or the level M4, employees dito may high competence and high commitment and confidence. So, ang leadership approach na dito is delegating. So, sa delegating, the leader assigns decision-making responsibility to team members but oversees their work. So, kung sa M3, nakikipag-communicate pa yung leader sa mga employees niya and both leader and employees yung gagawa ng decision. Dito naman sa delegating, ang leader na ay magbibigay na siya or i-assign na niya sa mga employees niya yung decision making and yung gagawin na lang niya is titignan na lang niya yung mga gawa or titignan na lang niya yung trabaho ng mga employees. Dito parang ang magde-decide na is yung mga employees, hindi na yung leader. So, yun nga po, sa loob ng isang organization, hindi naman pare-parehas yung preparedness level ng mga employees, yung mga maturity level. Siyempre, meron pa rin dyan yung mga seniors na meron naman yan yung bagong pasok pa lang. So, importante sa leader na malaman niya yung process or yung maturity level ng mga employees niya para na rin makagawa siya ng mga decisions na naka-align dun sa maturity level ng mga employees niya. So, ayan. So, another situational theory na nagsusupport sa situational leadership is yung dinevelop ni Daniel Goleman, which is the Goleman's model of situational leadership. So, nakaklassify ito into 6 categories. So, una nating i-discuss is yung commanding or the authoritative leader. So, kapag ikaw ay isang authoritative leader, dito papasok yung do what I tell you. So, walang ibang susundan yung mga employees mo kundi ikaw, kung ano yung sinabi mo or kung ano yung direction na sinabi mo, yun lang yung susundin nila. Wala silang ibang say sa mga sasabihin mo or sa mga desisyon na gagawin mo. Kasi sa'yo mismo manggagaling yun and wala dapat silang pakialam doon. So, sa type ng leader na to, bagay siya sa situation ng isang organization na kailangan ng direction or kailangan nila ng clear na mga gagawin or mga utos. Pero sa type ng leader na to is magiging problematic lang siya kapag yung mga kasama mo na sa organization is yung mga highly experienced na and yung mas alam na yung mga trabahong ginagawa nila. So next naman is coercive leader. Or ang papasok na dito is, do what I tell you now. So, dito sa part na to, or dito sa type ng leader na to, yung leader, nag-act siya as ultimate authority and demands immediate compliance with directions. So, dito, kapag sinabi ng leader na, ay, gawin nyo to ngayon na, kailangan ko to ngayon. So, ang mga employees naman, susundin agad and gagawin nila agad yun. And dito, yung pressure sa employees is talagang makikita natin. So, mas mataas yung stress na napupunta sa employees. So, appropriate naman tong coercive leader kapag ang situation sa organization is yung time of crisis na talaga or kung may mga problema na nag-a-arise and parang naiipit na yung organization. So, pero, tong coercive leader na to is hindi siya advisable sa loob ng isang organization kasi mas hindi siya makakapag-develop ng isang healthy environment or healthy situation sa mga employees. Third naman is yung sa affiliative leader. So, dito, ang lagi nating tatandaan, people comes first. So, sa affiliative leader, isa siyang positive reinforcement and moral boosting style. The leader praises and encourages the employees, refraining from criticism or reprimand. So, yung goal nung affiliative leader is mas mag-provide ng bonding or connectedness sa mga employees and sa leader. And dito, ang dinidevelop dito sa dinidevelop dito sa loob ng environment ng organization is yung sense of belongingness. So, sa approach na to, mas mababawasan yung stress and trauma ng mga employee natin. And dito, kapag ito yung ginamit na strategy sa isang situation, yung trust ng employees sa bawat isa and sa leader nila is mas madadagdagan. Pero, hindi naman laging ganito yung leader sa loob ng organization. Ito gagamitin lang pag alam ng sobra-sobra na yung stress and trauma na naidudulot sa mga employees. So, fourth naman is yung democratic leader. So, democratic leader naman ang isipin natin dito is, what do you think? So, as a democratic leader, the leader intentionally involves followers in the decision-making process by seeking their opinion and allowing them a voice in the final decision. So, kung sa commanding, ang laging nagde-decide lang is yung leader, dito naman sa democratic, ini-involve niya yung mga opinions nung mga employees niya and magagamit niya yon sa decision making niya. And dito sa democratic leader, magagamit natin to sa situation sa loob ng organization na yung leader kailangan din ng guidance or tulong ng mga employees pagdating sa decision making. Kasi minsan ang decision ng leader minsan nakakasama pa siya sa employees ng isang organization. So, para maging balance, kailangan ng opinion ng mga employees kung ano yung mas makakabuti sa kanila and makakabuti din sa leader and at the same time, makakabuti din sa organization nila. So, fifth naman is yung pace setting leader. So, dito naman, ang laging naiisip is yung do as I do now. So, the leader sets aggressive goals and standards and drives employees to reach them. So, dito sa pace setting leader, kung ano yung ginagawa ko or kung ano yung sinet kong goals and standards sa loob ng organization, dapat yun din yung kailangang abutin ng mga employees ko. So, dito sa type ng situation na to or ng type ng leader na to, kung ano yung goals and standards na dapat abutin or na sinet nung leader, kailangan yun din yung maabot nung mga employees. So, these work with highly motivated and competent employees. So, eto, kung competent ka as an employee, dito babagay or dito mo mas magagamit yung pagiging competent mo. Pero, sa pace setting leader, ang mas mababurn out ka or mas madali kang mapagod and yung stress level mo is as an employee is mas mataas kasi nga mataas yung goals and standards na pre-provide or na ginawa nung leader nyo. And lastly, yung sa coaching. So, sa coaching leader naman, ang papasok dito is yung try this. So, as a coaching leader, the leader focuses on helping individual employees build their skills and develop their talents. So, sa coaching leader, dito katulong yung leader ng mga employees para mas ma-build ng employees yung mga skills and yung talents nila sa loob ng organization na makakatulong sa pagtaas or sa paggawa nila ng mga procedure para maabot nila yung inattain nilang goals and objectives. This approach works best when employees are receptive to guidance and willing to hear about their weaknesses and where they need to improve. So, sa coaching leader, magagamit ito sa situation na yung mga employees, open sila sa mga criticisms or open sila sa mga opinions na makakatulong sa weaknesses nila and kung saan pa sila pwedeng mag-improve, kung saan silang skills and talents na mai-improve pa nila. Yan, last theory na nagsosupport sa situational leadership is yung normative decision theory. So, yung normative decision theory is ginawa ni Broom and Yetton. So, si Victor Broom and Philip Yetton provide a model that helps leader decide when to use each approach. So, meron dito tatlo. Yung autocratic, consultative, and yung group. So, punta muna tayo sa autocratic. Autocratic, meron ditong dalawa. So, yung una is leader solves the problem along using information that is readily available to him or her. So, yung leader dito, siya lang yung nagde-decide na mag-isa and siya lang yung solve ng problem mag-isa. So, hindi niya katulong dito yung mga employees niya. So, as a leader dito, So, as a leader dito sa autocratic, sa akin lang manggagaling or sa'yo lang mismo na leader manggagaling yung decision na magsusolve dun sa problem na nag-arise sa organization nyo. So, another type of leader naman sa autocratic is yung leader obtain additional information from group members, then makes decision alone. Group members may or may not be informed. So, dito, sa pangalawang type ng leader sa autocratic, kinukuha na niya yung opinion ng mga employees niya. And, pero, ang ano dito is, leader pa rin yung gagawa ng decision. So, kung nakagawa na yung leader ng decision, pwede niyang i-inform yung mga employees niya or pwede naman niyang i-keep lang yun sa sarili niya. So, next sa normative decision model is yung consultative. So, sa consultative, meron ding dalawa. Yung una dan is that leader shares problem with group members individually and ask for information and evaluation. Group members do not meet collectively and leader makes decision alone. So, kagaya dun sa pangalawa ng autocratic, dito sa conservative, yung leader dito, sinishare niya yung mga problems sa employees niya. Pero, yung employees niya is, sinishare niya to isa-isa. Hindi nagmi-meeting yung mga employees or hindi nagpo-provide ng meeting yung leader para i-discuss yung mga problems na nag-arise sa organization. Kumbaga, ang ginagawa niya dito, isa-isang papasok or isa-isa niyang sasabihan yung mga employees niya kung ano yung mga problem and doon kukunin niya yung opinion ng mga employees niya kung paano nila masosolve yung problem na to. Pero, ang decision making pa rin is yung leader lang ang gagawa, hindi yung group members. So, second type naman sa consultative is leader shares problem with group members collectively but makes decision alone. So, dito sa pangalawa, eto na, meeting. Nangyayari na yung meeting within the organization and dito na i-discuss yung mga problems na nag-arise within the organization. And dito na i-collect yung mga opinions ng employees kung paano masosolve yung problem. Pero ang decision making pa rin is sa leader. Sa leader lang. Leader lang ang magde-decide kung ano yung gagamitin nila para masolve yung isang problem. And last type sa normative decision model is yung group. So sa group naman, leader meets with group to discuss situation. Leader focuses and directs discussion but does not impose will. Group makes final decision. So sa group naman, so yung leader dito may meeting pa rin na nangyayari sa loob ng organization and discussion about the problems that arises inside the organization. So ang focus ng leader dito is that siya yung magdadirect within the discussion, pero hindi siya mag-i-impose ng will niya or hindi siya mag-i-impose ng opinion niya. So, dito, ang decision making is mangyayari within the group. So, kasali na dito sa decision making yung mga opinion ng employees, yung opinion ng leader, and pipili na lang sila doon kung ano yung mas nababagay or mas alam nilang mas makakasolve doon sa problem na nag-arise sa organization. So, yun yung tatlong theories na nagsusupport sa situational leadership. So, sabi dito, leaders are challenged not only to make good decisions but to decide who decides. At times, the best choice is to involve others in the decision. So, tama nga naman, kalimitan, mas magandang nakakarinig tayo or as a leader, kalimitan, mas magandang nakakarinig tayo ng iba't ibang opinion galing sa employees natin or sa kasamahan natin within the group para rin makadecide tayo or makabuo tayo ng mas magandang decision para siyang magsusolve sa mga problems within our organization. So, yung leaders, hindi lang sila yung dapat gumagawa ng decision. Kailangan alam din nila na sa sarili nila na kaya nilang mag-provide or kaya nilang mag-decide kung sino or kung ano yung mas makakatulong sa organization natin para maabot yung yung sinet na goal and objectives ng organization. Ayan. So, next naman na i-discuss ko is behaviors and leadership. So, behaviors gives every leader a path to increase effectiveness. So, kung maganda yung pinapakitang behavior nung leader nyo, may chance na mas mag-increase yung effectiveness ng leadership niya within the organization. Under this approach, to be an effective leader, you should work on both production and people concern. So, as a leader, hindi ka lang dapat nagfo-focus sa production or sa uh, pagpapataas ng standards or ng organization mo. Kailangan mo ding mag-work within people concerned kasi kung wala yung mga employees mo sa organization, hindi ka naman makakapag-process or hindi naman magiging maganda yung tinatakbo ng organization. Kaya dapat may people concern ka din sa mga employees mo. Kasi lahat naman tayo, maraming nangyayari sa sarili natin eh. Marami tayong nararamdaman and kailangan as a leader, kailangan mo maging sensitive din sa mga nararamdaman ng employees around your organization. So, to ensure leadership effectiveness, every leader should possess task-oriented behavior, relations-oriented behavior, and change-oriented behavior. So, pag-usapan muna natin yung task-oriented style or task-oriented behavior. So, task-oriented behavior is a behavioral approach in which the leader focuses on the task that need to be performed in order to meet certain goals or to achieve a certain performance standard. So, sa task-oriented behavior, dito ang focus lang ng leader dito is yung task and yung kailangang sundin na procedure para ma-attain or maabot nila yung certain goals nung organization. And para rin maabot nila yung certain performance or standards nung organization. So, next naman is second naman is yung sa relation-oriented behavior. So, relation-oriented behavior is a behavioral approach in which the leader focuses on the motivation and the general well-being of the team members. So, kung sa task, ang focus lang nung leader is yung mga procedures or task para maabot yung organization goals and objectives. Dito naman sa relation is, ang focus lang ng leader dito is yung motivation and yung general well-being nung mga employees niya or nung team members niya. So, dito na papasok yung sensitivity natin as a leader sa mga employees natin sa organization. Dito, kailangan i-check kung nagagawa pa ba ng maayos or naaapektuhan na yung paggawa ng mga employees dahil sa mga problems din nila sa buhay nila or sa pamilya nila. So, example nito is yung person who wants to connect or attach with others. So, dito nga, papasok na yung relationship natin sa employees natin inside the organization. And last, yung sa change-oriented behavior. So, monitor external environments to detect threats and new opportunities. So, dito sa change-oriented behavior, papasok dito yung sa environment ng organization natin. External environment ng organizations natin. Dapat, as a leader, alam mo kung saan pa, as a leader, sa change-oriented behavior, dapat namomonitor mo din yung external environment nung organization mo para na rin ma-detect mo yung mga threats na nandun sa mga threats na malapit sa organizations mo na makakaapekto sa pag-abot nyo ng goals and standards. And hindi lang yon, syempre pati yung mga new opportunities para na rin mas mapalakas or mas mapabilis yung pag-abot nyo ng goals and standards ng organization. Envision new possibilities for the organization. Siyempre, maraming possibilities na papasok sa organization nyo, and dapat as a leader, alam mo kung paano i-handle yon. So next or last sa change-oriented behavior is yung being open to any changes inside the organization. So, di man lingid sa kaalaman natin na lahat ng organization may changes na nangyayari sa loob. Pwede siyang maging changes sa members, pwedeng maging changes sa mga procedures or mga policies, ganun. So, as a leader, dapat alam mo kung paano i-handle yon and maging open ka sa any changes na yon. And kailangan ma-assess mo yung changes na yon kung makakabuti ba or makakasama siya or makakahadlang siya sa pag-abot ng goals and objectives na inattain nyo na kailangan maabot ng organization nyo. So, as a leader nga, kailangan yung behavior mo intact or positive yung pinapakita sa mga employees. So, yung negative behaviors naman, hindi naman natin may iwasan yon. Pero as a leader, dapat alam mong i-control sa sarili mo yon. Kasi once na pangit yung pinakita mo sa mga employees mo, maapektuhan yung trabaho nila. Hindi din magiging maganda yung kalalabasan sa environment ng organization nyo.
So, let's proceed to leadership effectiveness. People define the concept of leadership effectiveness in many ways. Indeed, Stockdale 1974, Bayes 1981, and Bayes and Stockdale 1990 cataloged and interpreted almost 5,000 studies of the concept and found great variance in its definition. So, sinasabi dito na si Bayes saka si Stockdale 1990 ang nag-aral or nag-studies about sa maraming ibig sabihin o maraming meaning ng leadership effectiveness. So, Burns, 1978, captured the problem most vividly in a statement still widely quoted today, leadership, he said. He said, is one of the most observed and least understood phenomenon on earth. So, sinasabi ni Burns, 1978, na ang leadership daw ay pinaka inoobserbahan and pinaka mahirap intindihin dito sa mundo kasi ang ibig sabihin ng leadership ay maraming ibig sabihin nito kaya hindi masyadong maintindihan or hindi masyadong masolusyonan kung ano nga ba ito. So, Burns, 1978, people seem to accept a difficult position that leadership is simply what leaders do, and that leaders are simply people in position of power over others. So, sinasabi dito, ang akala ng mga tao na kapag leader ka ay meron kang power na, may power ka over the others. Pero, ang pagiging leader ay mahirap din at meron consequence sa mga bagay na ginagawa mo kung hindi ito effective at hindi maganda or sa halimbawa na lang sa sitwasyon na tas ikaw yung leader, hindi ba na ang hirap solusyonan, pero kung effective leadership ka or effective leader ka, kaya mo itong solusyonan. So still, we must have a starting point for our understanding of leadership effectiveness, even it means that almost immediately we will create controversy. So, one inclusive definition of leadership effectiveness is the successful exercise of personal influence by one or more people that results in accomplishing shared objectives in a way that is personally satisfying to those involved. This definition arouses controversy when examined from perspective based on behavior in different contexts. Although this definition most comfortably applies to the interpersonal, small group, and network levels found within typical work environments in almost all political arenas and some huge organizations, leadership effectiveness will be defined differently. So, for organizations in which members or employees are significantly affected by decision and action that take place at a distance with only representative participation at best. Leadership effectiveness is the successful exercise of personal influence, attempts by one or more people that results in accomplishing organizational objectives congruent with a mission while earning the general approval of their constituencies. In the case, in the case of political leadership or stakeholders, in the case of business and civil society organizations, stakeholders are people who have interest in outcomes. So, sa leadership effectiveness, mayroong tatlong nakapaloob dito. Ito yung personal, individual member, and organizational. So, sa personal, kapag sinabi natin personal, ito yung there are many formal models and theories which seek to identify the key traits and behaviors that help leaders to succeed, and while these are worthwhile, it is perhaps more useful to explore such traits in everyday terms. So, pagiging leader, syempre, dapat alam mo muna sa sarili mo kung kung meron kang qualities na hinahanap sa isang leader, or 'di ba kapag leader ka dapat meron kang mga skills na dapat meron ka as a leader, kasi kapag wala ka nun mahirap kumbaga wala sa passion mo maging leader pero pinipilit mo, um, parang leader ka lang pero hindi yun effective sa mga membro na kagrupo or membro membro mo. So sa individual member naman, effective leaders understand and honor four basic needs that followers have: trust, compassion, stability, and hope. People are motivated to work with leaders they can depend on and who genuinely care about them, provide a solid and reliable foundation, and hope, inspire hope for the future. So, sa individual member naman, makikipag-cooperate bawat membro sa makikooperate sa isang grupo kung ang alam nila yung leader ay kung yung leader nila ay merong skills bilang leader nila at merong pagpapahalaga sa kanila, kasi kapag yung miyembro walang tiwala sa leader, kumbaga para yung kunyari yung project na gagawin nila is hindi yun matatapos ng madali at hindi din yun matatapos ng successful. So, sa organizational leadership involves having the right combination of skills and abilities that are used to make an organization more efficient and effective. Organizational leader skills range from understanding data-driven decision making to communicating well and setting proper expectations. So for organization naman, which members or employers are significantly impacted. So, kapag halimbawa na lang 'di ba, kapag sa organization, sa isang organization tapos ikaw yung leader, kapag effective leader ka, yung organization yun ay lalawak at magkakaroon ng mas maraming project or magkakaroon ng mas maraming miyembro kung yung pamamalakad ng isang leader ay maganda at epekto. So, let's proceed to contingency model of leadership. So, the question is, what is the contingency leadership? Contingency theory of leadership, supposing that a leader effectiveness is contingent on whether or not their leadership style suits a particular situation. According to this theory, an individual can be effective leader in one circumstances and effective leader in one another. So, sinasabi sa theory na ito na sinasabi sa contingency model of leadership, na bawat isa sa atin ay kaya natin maging effective leader in any circumstances. So, to maximize your likelihood of being productive leader, this theory posits that you should be able to examine each situation and decide if your leadership style is going to be effective or not. In most cases, this requires you to be self-aware, objective, and adaptable. So, dito sa theory na ito na, yun nga, sinasabi ko kanina na bawat isa sa atin ay may kakayahang maging effective leader. And ang kailangan lang natin ay maging aware tayo sa mga gagawin natin kasi at maging maging i-adapt natin lahat ng mga challenge or i-adapt natin yung mga challenge na dumarating sa atin para kasi as a leadership mas matututo or mas mag, mag- matututo tayo kung ah, yung mga pagkakamali natin ay gagawin nating lesson learned sa atin. Kumbaga i-adapt natin yun at yun nga parang yun na rin yung learn sa yung learn sa nagawang pagkakamali niyan. So, contingency theory of leadership in the workplace. In the workplace, there are dozens of factors that can affect a leader effectiveness. These include things like the size of the team, the scope of project, expected delivery date of results. Different leaders, each with unique leadership styles, will respond to these variables in different ways. So, sinasabi dito na sa contingency theory of leadership in the workplace na um, bawat isa sa atin ay may iba't ibang way kung paano maging leader, hindi ba? We have a unique leadership style. So wag natin ikumpara yung iba yung way nila sa way mo kung paano nila i-lead yung grupo nila kasi each individual um, has a different way to lead the groups or different ways. So contingency theories would say that no matter how successful is a leader is, there will always be a particular situation that will challenge them. So sinasabi dito sa contingency theories na kahit na successful leaders ka ay meron pa rin talaga na particular circumstances na magcha-challenge sa kanila kung kakayanin ba nila itong solusyonan o hindi kasi 'di ba nga kapag sa isang grupo 'di ba halimbawa sa research 'di ba kapag magle-lead sila ay ano to kapag halimbawa sa research halimbawa na lang na yung ginagawa nila ng gathering or nagga-gather information ay parang may pagkakamali or may situation na unexpected situation as a effectiveness leadership masosolusyonan nila kung paano nila ito aagapan para maayos yung problema yon. So therefore leaders must be willing to acknowledge the fact that their success depends partially on their circumstance in addition to their personal skills. To lead their team, will managers and supervisor may need to either adapt their leadership style to the current situation or delegate some of their leadership responsibilities to co-workers. The contingency theory of leadership is impacted by range of specific factors in the average workplace including maturity level of the employees, relationship between coworkers, work pace, management style, typical work schedule, goals and objectives, standards for behavior, company policies, employees' work style, and employees' morale. So, itong mga binanggit kong ito yung mga factors sa contingency theory of leadership na sa workplace. So, let's proceed to Fiedler's contingency model of leadership. So, let's proceed to Fiedler's contingency model of leadership. The Fiedler contingency model was created in the mid-1960s by Fiedler, scientists who studied the personality and characteristics of leaders. So, yung Fiedler's contingency model of leadership ay nagmula sa pangalan ng scientist na nag-aral ng personality and characteristic of leaders na si Fiedlers. So, the model was states that there is no one style of leadership. Instead, a teacher effectiveness is based on the situation. So, sinasabi dito na um, hindi daw nakabase yung sa style ng pagiging leadership ang effectiveness teachers or effectiveness leadership. Kumbaga, naka-base ito sa may situation na ah, kinakaharap natin kung kaya ba natin 'tong kung kaya niya bang masolusyonan yung situation na unexpected situation na yun. So, this is the result of two factors. So, merong dalawang situational merong dalawang there are two factors. Ito yung leadership styles and situational favorableness or later called situational control. So, dun tayo sa leadership style. Identifying the style is the first step using the model. Fiedler believed that leadership style is fixed and it can be measured using his skills developed called least preferred coworker or LPC skill. Kung makikita po natin sa picture, Fiedler contingency leadership style. So, makikita natin na relationship-oriented leaders is high LPC score equals good at building good relationship and managing conflict to get things done. Sa task-oriented leaders, low LPC score, good at organizing teams and project and getting things done. So, sinasabi nito na yung meron kasing dalawang uri ng LPC. Ito yung high and low. So, pag sinasabi natin high, ito yung relationship-oriented leaders. So, kapag low naman, low LPC score, ito yung task-oriented leaders. So, sa relationship-oriented leaders, mas nagpo-focus sila sa socialize or relationship nila sa miyembro or sa leaders. So, sa pag low naman, mas nagpo-focus sila sa may task-oriented leaders. So, the model says that the task-oriented leaders usually view their LPC more negatively, resulting in a lower score. Fiedler called this low LPC leader. He said that low LPCs are very effective at completing tasks. They're quick to organize a group to get tasks and project done. Relationship building as a low priority. So, yun nga sinasabi ko na high LPC. Ay, hindi. Yung low LPC. Yun yung mas nagpo-focus sila sa may task kaysa sa mas priority nila yung mga task ng project or task na gagawin ng isang miyembro kaysa sa relationship nila. So, however, relationship-oriented leaders usually view their LPC more positively, giving them higher score. These are high LPC leaders. High LPC focus more on personal connection and they're good at avoiding managing conflict. They're better able to make complex decisions. So, ito nga sinasabi natin, high LPC. So, ito yung mas nakafocus sila sa may pagbibuild ng relationship or pagkikita-socialize sa miyembro. Or parang mas nafocus sila sa pagkuha ng trust ng bawat miyembro para mas mag-build para hindi magkaroon ng problema sa isang grupo at makumpleto nila yung project at matapos na nila ito kaagad. So, din naman tayo sa situational favorableness or situational control. The second important factors in leadership effectiveness is situational favorableness. How favorable a situation is depends on three situational variables. So, yung una is leader-member relations. Sa leader-member relations, this is the level of trust and confidence that your team has in you. A leader who is more trusted and has more influence within the group is in more favorable situation than a leader who is not trusted. So, sa number 2 naman, ito yung task structure. Sa task structure this refers to the type of task you're doing. Clear and structured or vague and structured. Unstructured tasks are tasks where the team and leader have little knowledge of how to achieve them are viewed unfavorable. So, Sinasabi sa task structure, kapag sa isang grupo, kapag gagawin nila yung isang task, dapat yung leader, gumawa na siya ng structured kung paano, kung ano yung gagawin ng miyembro ng by part nila sa isang para hindi magkaroon ng conflict or hindi magkaroon ng ano ng pagrereklamo ng bawat miyembro. So, mas mapapadali yung task kung structured yung gagawin or structured yung mga step or mga hakbang na gagawin nila para matapos yung task na gagawin nila. So, sa pangatlo naman, ito yung leader position power. So, leader's position power, this is the amount of power you have to direct the group and provide reward or punishment. The more power you have, the more favorable your situation. Fiedler identifies power as being either strong or weak. So, dito sa may leader's position power, meron kang power. Meron kang power na bigyan sila, miyembro mo ay bigyan sila ng reward or punishment. Kung alam mo kung yung isang miyembro mo ay hindi nakikooperate, meron kang power na bigyan sila ng punishment. Halimbawa na lang kung halimbawa na lang sa mga by group, 'di ba, sa mga project na gagawin. Kung yung isang miyembro mo ay hindi nakikooperate, pwede mo siyang kung merong criteria or rate based kasi ang leader, meron siyang power na mag-rate sa bawat miyembro niya. So, pwede niyang ratean yung isang miyembrong yon na mababa kasi kung ano lang yung kung ano lang yung kaya niya, kung ano lang yung mga ginawa niya, doon mo i-base yung pagre-rate mo. So, kung sa reward naman, kung yung isang miyembro mo ay nai-cooperate and bawat sa sa mga task na pinapagawa or part nila ay nagagawa nila ng maayos, meron silang reward. Yun yung i-rate mo sila ng mas mataas kaysa sa hindi gumagawa or nakika-operate. So, regarding leader-member relation levels, a favorable situation would be one where your team trusts your implicity. The higher the trust between two parties, the more favorable the situation is. In terms of task structure, a favorable situation has very clear tasks if it's obvious that the team should be doing and how should carry out their tasks. The leader has more situational control. The last situational factor is the leader's position power. So, ito nga yung sinasabi ko. So, dun na tayo sa applying the Fiedler contingency model. So, dito, ipapakita ko or ipapaliwanag ko ay dito ipinapakita yung by step kung paano maging effective or paano may apply yung Fiedler contingency model as a teacher. So, sa step 1, identify your leadership style. Think about the person you least enjoy working with, either now or in the past. Rate your experience with that person using the scale in figure 1 above. Kung figure 1 above. According to this model, a higher score means that you're naturally relationship focused. A lower score means that you're naturally task focused. Dito natin ipapasok yung sinasabi ko kaninang high LPC sa low LPC. Kapag higher score means that you're naturally relationship focused. Kapag low score naman means that you're naturally task focused. So, sa step 2 naman, identify your situation. So, merong mga question dito. So, we have to answer the question. Are leader-member relationship good or poor? Is the you're doing structured or is it more structured? Do you have little experience of solving similar problems? So, tanong dito, do you have strong or weak power over your team? So, itong mga tanong na ito ay magpaparealize sa'yo kung yung pagiging leader mo ba ay effective or kung bakit ka naging ganito or bakit ka naging nasa position mo ngayon as a leader. At mas magkakaroon ka pa ng skills kung yung mga tanong na ito ay nasagot mo sa sarili mo. So, sa step 3, determine the most effective leadership style. So, makikita natin dito sa figure 2, shows a breakdown of all factors were covered. Leader-member relations, task structure, and leader's position power. The final column identities the type of leader that Fiedler believed would be most effective in each situation. So, makikita natin sa bawat column yung leader-member relations, andito yung good and poor. Sa task structured naman, makikita na dito yung structured and unstructured. Sa leader's position power, ito yung strong and weak. And sa most effective leader, andito yung makikita natin yung low LPC and high LPC. For instance, imagine that you've started working at new company, replacing a much-loved leader who recently retired. You're leading a team who views you with distrust, so your leader-member relation are poor. The task you're all doing together is well-defined, structured, and your position of power is high because you're the boss and you'll be able to offer a reward or punishment to the group. So, sinasabi dito na kapag kapag yung miyembro mo ay may trust sa'yo, tapos kasi yung structure na ginagawa mo sa bawat task na pinapagawa mo ay maayos, ay yung task na gagawin ninyo ay magiging okay at magiging mas maayos kaysa sa mga miyembro na walang tiwala sa isang leader kasi yung structure na ginagawa niya ay unstructured or hindi siya maayos at wala silang tiwala, kaya yung task na ginagawa nila ay hindi magsasabi dito, hindi naayon sa or hindi maayos. So effectiveness. Fiedler contingency theory states that for a leader to be effective, their leadership style must fit the situation. Using this model, you'll identify your own leadership style, assess the situation that requires leadership, and determine whether you're the right leader. In this piece, we further break down the theory, teach you how to apply it to become a better leader, and provide example of the theory in the action. So, at ang panghuli, so yun yung effectiveness nung yun yung may tutulong ng Fiedler contingency theory sa mga teacher or sa mga leader kung i-apply natin ito. So, ang panghuli ay yung LPC or least prepared coworker. The least prepared coworker LPC skill requires a person to rate the one individual they would at least want to work with. The least prepared coworker using a range of 18 to 25 opposing positive or negative adjectives with ratings from 1 to 8. So, dito nga sa may LPC, nakakatulong to sa bawat each individual na ma-rate nila kung saan sila malakas or mahina sa high ba or sa low. So, the most effective leader in this situation will be high LPC. That is leader who can focus on building relationship first. Or imagine that you're leading a team who likes and respects you, so your leader-member relations are good. The project you're working together is highly creative and structured, and your position of power is high since, again, your management position of strength in this situation, a task-focused leadership style will be most effective. So, ang key points naman dito ay sa the Fiedler contingency model is ask you to think about your natural leadership style and the situation in which it will be most effective. The model says that the leader are either task focus or relationship focus. So, ito nga yung high focus and low focus, ay high LPC and low focus. Once you understand your style, it says that you can match its situation in which that style is most effective. So, sinasabi dito sa may contingency theory na kailangan maintindihan mo yung style mo, maintindihan or malaman mo yung style mo sa paglilid ng isang grupo para malaman mo yung kahinaan at kalakasan ay strong and weak mo at mas at makakapag-adjust ka kung paano ito sosolusyonan. So, in this situation, a task-focused leadership style must be most effective. So, however, the model has some disadvantages. It doesn't allow for leadership flexibility, and the LPC score might give an inaccurate picture of your leadership style. As with all models and theories, use your best judgment when applying the Fiedler contingency model to your own situation. So, this is the end of my topic. This